Hello and welcome to Say Hi to the Future, Ingenious Thinkers, a podcast aimed at highlighting the human side of ingenuity. My name is Ken Tencer, curator of Say Hi to the Future, helping leaders think differently in the face of uncertainty and ambiguity. With me today is Haley Omeasoo, Executive Director at Ohkomi Forensics, an organization bridging the gap between traditional and modern investigative methods. So Haley Omeasoo, welcome to Say Hi to the Future.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're coming to us from Missoula, Montana today.
Yes. Yep.
And we've had people from all 7 continents, but never from Missoula. So where is that?
It's in Western Montana.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And there you're a doctoral student in forensic and molecular anthropology.
Yes. Yep. I'm in my second year of my PhD right now. Hopefully
Very
I'll be done soon.
It takes a while. I'm in year 3, a very, very different
Yeah.
study
Yeah.
thing. But what is forensic molecular anthropology?
Yeah. So basically what I do is I do analyses on human remains. So mostly just bone cases. The molecular side, I'm learning how to take DNA from the bones and assisting in helping to identify the individual.
And you are doing this. I mean, your focus, my understanding, we'll talk about your company later, but it's working with the Blackfeet tribe in cases of repatriation of human remains.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just go on. I mean, it says, and I'm reading obviously from your work, housed in teaching institutions and federal archive collections.
Mm-hmm.
So please tell us about the specifics, because obviously there's a focus on indigenous remains.
It kind of stems from the act that was put into place in 1990, NAGPRA, or the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act. So that basically says that any of these collections that are federally funded need to repatriate the remains that they have. And so we're finding out that a lot of them are from the Blackfeet tribe. And so what we're trying to do now is getting them back home. So I'm trying to kind of put that into my study by seeing how DNA may assist in that process.
And excuse my ignorance, but I mean, this is why we have these conversations. How do they come to be housed, or how did they come to be housed in teaching institutions or federal archives?
Yeah, that's kind of one of the big questions, I think, is sometimes we don't know. And that's why we don't know who these people were. So it could have been, like getting new structures built. So while they were digging in construction, maybe they came across human remains. Um, and then in cases where they were used in research without, the tribe knowing. And so, yeah, now they're just kind of coming into these collections. Sometimes too, a family member will pass away, so someone's grandpa will have all of this stuff left in his basement, and then here's a human skull, and it's Native American, and that'll kind of get put into a collection, and then end up in these institutions. So yeah, it's kind of a big issue that I think not enough people talk about. And I didn't know that we had a collection here at the University of Montana until I was looking for a topic for my dissertation. And now I know that one of the individuals may be of Blackfeet ancestry. And the only reason we know that is because there's just one note that was made that it came from Glacier County, or that they had come from Glacier County, which is on or near the Blackfeet Reservation. And yeah, and we don't know who this person was or is. And yeah, so we're hoping that DNA can hopefully tell us something.
And so when you say hopefully that DNA will tell us something, are you looking to fill in history as well? Is that part of
Yeah,
this?
and finding living descendants too. Um, yeah, and the issue there is that there isn't enough Native American representation in some of these DNA databases. And so if we were to take DNA from this deceased individual and try to match it with the databases that they have out there now, we may not find a match. And so part of my dissertation is creating a database of living tribal members that can be used to compare, but the database will be controlled and maintained by the tribe.
Okay. And as well as these historic cases, you're also involved with missing and murdered Indigenous people,
Yes.
and that is an epidemic.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit more about that, because I did look at, again, some of the statistics on your company site, and frankly, and again, excusing my ignorance, these numbers, 4 out of 5 Indigenous women have experienced violence in their lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
Native women murdered at a rate of 10 times higher than other ethnicities, and so disturbing. How do you see being able to reverse or support the reversal of this?
Yeah, I think that a lot of the issue is with the jurisdiction and kind of how things are handled on the reservations. So we don't go through state agencies. We have our own tribal law enforcement, and then we have the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and then it goes to FBI. And so I think that a lot of these cases kind of start to fall through the cracks because of those jurisdictional barriers. And so that's kind of what I'm hoping to do with my company, is to kind of figure out where a forensic lab may fit into that. Because a lot of the, evidence that's being sent out, sometimes gets lost, or, the results aren't getting back in a timely manner. And so having a lab that's there specifically for the tribes, I think would be really beneficial in that process.
So we're talking about your company, and we'll transition to that Ohkomi Forensics. How did you get to the point of founding it, though? Like, what is your background? Because I looked at some of your undergrad work as well. I mean, there's certainly a passion for, this pathway that you're taking.
Yeah. Yeah, I've kind of always had an interest in forensics. My undergrad, I went to University of Montana. So I majored in forensic anthropology and human biology, so I was pre-med. Um, and then I kind of decided, that my work wasn't finished here. And so I went for my master's in forensic anthropology, and kind of using those MMIW cases, such as Ashley Heavy Runner Loring. So she's my relative and classmate from the Blackfeet Reservation. And I just really wanted to learn, what can I do with my time here at the university that, I can bring back to the reservation and kind of help in her case and in other cases.
And sorry, can you tell us a little bit about her case for those who don't know?
Yeah, so Ashley went missing a little over 6 years ago now. She went missing from the Blackfeet Reservation. She's same age as I am, or she would have been. So she's about 26, 27. And her case is still unsolved. No one's been charged for her murder or for her disappearance. And yeah, they're kind of at a standstill right now with her case. There's, potential evidence that was sent out that we don't really know what the results were or if it was anything helpful, just because it is an open case. And so her family has just been working with the FBI and with the community members and trying to help find her. But yeah, they haven't found her yet.
So inserting yourself or Ohkomi Forensics into that, does that give you or the family greater control or greater ability to control the evidence and where it might lead?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm hoping for Ohkomi, and using Ashley as my main motivation for starting the company, is that I hope that, with Ohkomi, we can assist on the searches for her, bringing in more professionals to help with her case. And if there is any other evidence that needs testing, then, we can be right there to provide those services. and then just listening to the family specifically and hearing what they need and what they're looking for in the case and trying to relay that, because there is this big gap between the family and the law enforcement agencies, and that, kind of communication just really isn't there. And so I'm hoping that Ohkomi can kind of be that voice that, helps kind of bridge that gap.
And I mean, you're starting with your tribe, a specific tribe,
Mm-hmm.
yours. Is this a model that as you finish your doctorate and as you build your process, is this a model that you hope to see, continue through into the US, other parts of the US?
Yeah, definitely. I don't know of any other forensic laboratories that are specifically working for the tribes, or I know of another that went the nonprofit route, as we have Intermountain Forensics. So they've been a huge help in getting the nonprofit side, and answering questions that I have about that. But yeah, I don't know of anyone else really trying to um, assist the tribes of the US specifically. And so for Ohkomi, starting with the Blackfeet Reservation, I'm hoping to expand to the other tribes in Montana, and maybe later down the road, other tribes in the US and in Canada, because the Blackfeet Reservation extends into Canada as well. So we have a lot of
Mhm.
relatives up there too, and the rates are just as high, if not higher, up there for missing or Indigenous women.
Yes, as a Canadian, I can say that's been quite a stain on our history. I think what you're doing is unbelievable when you say the first. I mean, that's other than just being incredibly important for you to step up and do it, for
Mm-hmm.
anyone to step up and do something and be the first at it is it's truly remarkable. So
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Yeah, I honestly didn't really plan to
yeah.
start my own company, right away. A lot of us in the university go towards these degrees, and, you're thinking, okay, I got to take these classes and I got to do this so that I can get a job here, or, whatever. But kind of looking around in Montana, I haven't really seen job positions that were open specifically for what I'm going to school for and what I'm trying to do. And so, I'm kind of at the point where I'm like, well, I guess I just have to create my own.
And that's why you're part of Ingenious Thinkers. It's
Yeah.
about people who just see that challenge and find a way. So again,
Hmm.
congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yeah.
One of the things it talks about is your services combining tribal knowledge with modern technology.
Hmm.
What is tribal knowledge and what is modern technology, and how
Yeah.
do you bring that together?
So I guess just being a member of the, tribal community and learning, all of the tribal beliefs and the customs, and how, some of that may fit into the process of identifying a person, handling Indigenous remains, and kind of how we go about these searches and recoveries. So for example, doing DNA and investigative genetic genealogy, it might look a little bit different when you're creating a pedigree or a family tree, and kind of how the oral history of our people and our stories can kind of play a role in creating those family trees, and helping to identify a person. That information isn't readily available, off of the reservation. And so you really have to go back and use your resources on the reservation, and, the people there, to kind of put in all the pieces of the puzzle to help identify a person. Also, just having an understanding of the tribal beliefs and customs, like I said, that are specific to tribal members, that you're working with, and how these play a huge role in extracting and analyzing DNA, if DNA can even be obtained. So, for example, some tribes have beliefs that don't allow them to give their samples, such as hair or blood. And so just being aware of that can help us as forensic analysts to come up with and create different avenues that may still be helpful. And then having tribal knowledge of the land and the relationship with the land and the animals, may help us during our recoveries, recognizing possible historic burial sites as opposed to forensic or a modern day burial site, is really helpful. And then, like I said, the handling of Indigenous human remains may also differ between the tribes. So just overall having that tribal knowledge background, and now having the knowledge of forensic techniques and methods and technology that's out today, we can kind of create our own methods that will fit to each case, since every case is different.
And when you describe it, I mean, one of the things that you mentioned was some or much of the information might not be available outside of a specific reservation.
Mhm.
Are you going to be in a position to create that database? Um,
Yes. Mhm.
okay.
Yeah.
And what type of data what data or data points will you be collecting that will make it easier in the future?
Yeah, so like I said, with my doctoral dissertation, I'm going to be creating the Blackfeet genetic database, which isn't isn't a thing right now. So I'll be creating that, and maybe down the line, hopefully for the other tribes too. And it's kind of just that like taking back of our own data, because there's just not that trust there right now because of things that have happened in the past, where Native American DNA was exploited, or used for different research studies behind their backs. And so, just having to build that trust back up, I think is really important. And so creating our own databases, I think, is kind of the way that we have to go right now.
Okay. And exploitation, how is data exploited or taken behind people's backs?
So one case that I always talk about is the case of the Havasupai tribe, where they allowed researchers to take their DNA for a research study, but then it was used in a different research study, without their consent. And so now they don't allow any research to be done. And so, obviously that kind of affects the research realm. There may be components within DNA that we as Native American people want to, know for ourselves and keep for ourselves maybe. And, just kind of in the past, how data has been represented in a way that makes Native Americans look inferior. It's all about representation, really, no matter what the data is. So yeah, I think, like I said, just trying to take back that that data and represent it in a way that represents our culture and represents us better.
And it sounds like that you're in a position in some way to reinstill trust or confidence, by the way that you're combining tribal and modern
Mm-hmm.
technology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And let's go to Ohkomi Forensics mission. I mean, a voice that gives back identity to the missing and murdered Indigenous people. Um, what is that? The giving back the identity to the missing and murdered.
Yeah. So it's right there in the name. Ohkomi is how you pronounce it in Nisiplaxin, or the Blackfeet language. And so Ohkomi means to use one's voice. And so that's part of our mission, is to give voice back to those that can no longer speak for themselves. So a lot of our cases that go cold for years, there's a 3-year-old girl that's still missing. Why aren't there more resources being made available? Or there's cases that are like 5, 10, 20 years old. Why aren't these cases getting as much media attention as others that are seen today? And so just kind of bringing that voice back. So Ohkomi just strives to just be an entity that cares and gives attention to these cases and to these families, that kind of feel like everyone else has given up on their family members, and just doing what we can with modern day science to aid in those cases.
So you said that you're a not-for-profit.
Mhm.
Um, so past passion and your skill set, this seems to be a mammoth financial undertaking. How
Mhm.
does that model work? What support can or do you receive to help you?
As of right now, since we're just kind of trying to get off the ground, we're just taking personal donations, sponsorships, trying to apply for grants. So we don't really have, a large set of funding just yet, but hopefully we can find some that will help us to kind of get off the ground, because doing DNA especially is not cheap. And also trying to get a lab going eventually someday, that's not going to be cheap either. So hoping that getting our mission out there and what we're trying to do will help others to want them to help, and kind of assist in doing all of that. So
Well, I wish you luck on that. I mean, I think you are on to something that has obviously been recognized as so incredibly important. So,
yeah,
um,
thank you.
where do you see this in 5 years? You've got another few years of doing your doctorate.
Yeah.
Where do you see this, and what's it going to take?
Yeah, I'm hoping to be done with my doctorate by next year, hopefully, if everything all goes well. And so that's kind of why I've started the nonprofit now to, like I said, get funding in place so that by the time I graduate, I can start working on getting Ohkomi Forensics Lab and Research Center going on the Blackfeet Reservation that can be, readily accessible to the other tribes as well, and reaching towards accreditation. Yeah, so I'm hoping that we can get the lab going within the next, few years and be up and running.
Again, I wish you the greatest of success with that. Hopefully, this conversation of shared can help you in even in the tiniest way. And as things go forward, please reach out to us. Let us know your successes, and we'd love to continue to share it with our growing community.
Great. Yeah. Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you, Haley.